This happened back in December, but I can't seem to shake it. I was driving to my office and was stopped in a left-hand turn lane. A car came up behind me, and I was suddenly overcome with this intense fear that they were going to hit me. It was a cold fear unlike anything I have ever experienced. The car behind me came to a gentle stop a couple yards behind me as I watched in the rearview mirror. Suddenly, I felt an intense jolt through my body, so much so that I felt the car move when I did. I checked to see if the car was in the same spot. The light turned green, and just before I took my foot off the brake, I felt an excruciating pain in my neck and head that made me feel dizzy and sick. There was an overwhelming smell and taste of gasoline. I tried to get my bearings, and the car behind me lightly honked to make me move. Still in pain and with the taste and smell of gasoline, I rolled down my window as I slowly moved through the intersection. I gave an apologetic wave to the driver behind me, who returned the gesture, and I immediately turned into my office parking lot. I sat there trembling, trying to shake what had happened. The smell and taste finally dissipated. The pain slowly eased from my neck and head, but I was still very shaken up. I was weepy all day. I felt very strange in my body, kept imagining my family receiving news of me in a fatal car accident, and I was pretty afraid to get back in my car at the end of my workday. While talking to my fiancé about what happened, I tried to find a reasonable explanation that involved a stress-induced trauma response from a bad accident a while back, or a simple panic attack. He said, could be, or maybe you died in a car accident in an alternate parallel universe and you felt it. I laughed it off, but I have not forgotten the statement. I'm currently a senior in high school, and this happened last school year. I used to be a very reckless driver. I got pulled over going 20 over in a school zone, and that's where this story starts. Naturally, my parents took my license for 2 weeks. When I got my license back, it was conveniently the first day of spring break. My friend had gotten a new truck, and he wouldn't send any pictures of it. He said we needed to see it in person. Now, me and this friend live about a half hour from the rest of our friend group, so I said I was going to drive to his house and see his new truck, which I did. Now, it should be noted that we live in the country, so we take a lot of back roads to get to places, and those back roads have a lot of loose gravel and dirt. I hopped in my car, put on some music on my Bluetooth, and I distinctly remember turning on Sunday Morning Coming Down by Johnny Cash. So me, being stupid with the need for speed, I was flying, going 60 miles an hour down these back roads. I ended up trying to drift and kept messing up, and that's where what I remember doesn't align with what actually happened. Here's what I remember. I remember my car losing control and feeling the right side lift up. I proceeded to start rolling, and I felt the roof start to close in. I distinctly remember a few things from this moment. First of all, I remember putting my hands up, trying to push my roof off my head and screaming, "Oh shit," 3 times. I also remember not being able to see out of my windshields because of how cracked they were and the cloud of gravel dust my car had kicked up. And another thing I remember is hearing glass cracking and scraping in my back seat, but being too scared to look back because I had an eyes on the road mentality. Then I remember looking up and the roof caving in, and it went black. Then what happened after that, I cannot explain. My vision was blocked by what I can only describe as TV static. My ears were ringing bad, like I couldn't even think. Then the ringing got interrupted by radio static. After a few moments, the static dispersed, and I was extremely confused for a few reasons. Firstly, my car was upright and intact. I had just barely bumped a tree. The radio static was coming from my radio. My FM transmitter had somehow been removed from the cigarette lighter. I checked my phone and no music was playing. The music app wasn't even open. It was almost like I was switching through stations and couldn't find something to listen to. Well, luckily for me, there was a farmer in the field next to where I crashed, and he came and helped me, and here's what he said happened. I was barreling around this turn, going about 60, and my tire popped off after I started a drift, which I later concluded to be low air pressure, and I couldn't straighten and hit the tree. He said I was lucky because if I was off by even 6 inches, I would have rolled into the creek and died. A few hours after everything got settled, I finally got home and I felt so different. I guess anyone would, but everything felt so unfamiliar, like I was in a stranger's house. I felt unsafe telling anyone I felt that way. I mean, the crash was 8 months ago, and I still get paranoid just typing it out. I've also noticed some things are different around the house that no one else thinks are different. For example, light switch placements are different than I remember. Also, the hot water and the cold water knobs are switched. It used to be cold on the left and hot on the right, but now it's the opposite. Thoughts on what happened would be greatly appreciated.